So what do you do when you can't be by the Great Lakes? It's a long way to Lake Michigan or Lake Superior, but you've got to hanker in to look for fossils or interesting rocks. What do you do? Well, this is what I do. I head down to Eagle Creek, and this is near Indianapolis. So let's just take a look. Of course, you have to get permission. There are plenty of rocks. And right now, the river is down some, or the creek, I should say. The creek is down some. And so it's easier to see the rocks. Of course, you know you're always looking for anything that would be interesting. You can find pretty much the same sort of things here as you can in Lake Michigan. Not as much, of course, and there certainly are some differences, but there are a lot of similarities too. So you find horned coral, you find Stringopora, if that's how you pronounce that. I think you find quite a bit of chert. I like these little gravel bars. I also like the areas where there's been some erosion. Like this little area here, you know, with the fresh rains, you know that some new things have been uncovered, so it's always good to take a look. It's just a beautiful spot. So even if you don't find anything that interests you, you still have enjoyed a wonderful little time out in the woods and in a creek, looking at all of God's creatures. And there are plenty of them here, lots of crawdads, lots of little minnows. I like to look at spots like this because all this has eroded out of what was earlier, like the surface or the creek at an earlier date. So sometimes you'll see just a whole line . So what do you do when you go to the creek and everything has silt on it so that you can't really see what the beauty of the stone is? Well, you look for shapes, you look for patterns. And in this last trip I took out there to the creek, you saw that all the rocks were covered with kind of a silt or slime, whatever you want to call it. And so I brought them home, I cleaned them up, and I want to show you now the kinds of things that you can find in a creek. So in about 2 hours, this is the kind of stuff that I was able to find that interested me. So this particular death plate you can see there the dry image, and I'll spray a little bit of water on it. I don't know if that'll improve anything. But what we have here is some horn coral, like that right there. And there might be some crinoids in there. There's definitely a little tiny crinoid down here, and there's some on the other side. But this is the kind of death plate that you might find in a creek in this area. So this was all covered at one time with water, and we know why. So that's one of the fossils that I came home with. Here's another one. Actually, these two used to be one, but it looked like there was a little bit of a split in the side, and so I thought, well, I'm just gonna chop this and split it in half. So that's what I did. And what we have here is, I'd never found a star crinoid, but that's what we have right there in the middle. And then there's another one up here in the corner that's kind of nice. It's kind of hard to see, but at the same time, I can see it, you could see it, you could actually find this. So, these are the kinds of things that you could find in a creek if you are looking hard enough. And I guess if you want to see that wet, I could spray a little bit of water on there. I don't know if that improves it or makes it worse, but maybe it makes the crinoid show up just a little bit better. And then we'll do the same here with this one. I thought, whoa, boy, maybe there's something hiding inside. And so the other side, I looked, and it's more of the same. So nothing too exciting there. Also, in the same creek, I found this, which is a fossil I had never found before. And this, I believe, is a little bit of a very eroded horn coral, maybe a little bit different size than that other one, but you can definitely see a pattern there. And this one is Stringopora. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I did get that identified by some people that actually know something about fossils, as opposed to me. I just am kind of a hobbyist, and I'm learning, but I have a long way to go. This might also be the old ancient sponge. I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, I love the pattern there. Another thing that I look for when I'm out in the creek is I look for anything that has layers or is banded. So I really like the banded chert, and I like the banded mudstone, and I like the banded slate, and pretty much anything that's banded I like. So let's put a little bit of water on that. So you can see that there is a lot of banded stuff that you will find in a creek, and I like this in particular. I believe that is banded chert. I will get it identified by some people that actually know a lot more than I do. But the rest of this mostly is banded slate. So we'll move some of this out and move something else in. So that to me looks like, I'll do a test on it later to find out a little bit more about what the hardness is, but that looks like banded slate. Kind of a surprising rock that I found was this little bit of feldspar with a pyrite vein through it. Boy, that is sure sparkly. And I'm in the shade right now when I'm filming this, but when you're in the sun, man, that just it's almost blinding. So I do kind of like that little bit of glitz and glamour. I'm always looking for Native American artifacts. So far, over the last 2 weeks, a couple of hours out there in the creek looking, I haven't found anything that I think for sure is Native American. I have Native Americans in my ancestry. I also have settlers in my ancestry, so I've got both sides covered. That to me looks like a game ball. It looks like nothing else that was in the creek. It might be, it might not be. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like it's been used here because it's pitted to pound a little bit. It's chipped away there. I don't know if that's pecking or whether that is something else, but I like it, and it's going to go in my collection. Now, there are some people that love to find a face. I'm not really into that, you know, so much, but you know, this is for those people that enjoy finding Omars and hearts and faces and things that look like a piece of meat and so forth. So this is technically, I suppose, I mean, there's not a lot of technology involved, but that is a hole that goes all the way through. I don't think this is any kind of fire starting stone that Native Americans might have used. It just looks like natural erosion to me. But some people love a hagstone, and that's definitely a hagstone. Variolite. I saw that and I thought it might have been some kind of amygdaloidal basalt, but I checked the website and people that know more than me said, yeah, that's not really amygdaloidal basalt. That is variolite, and I'm very happy to have found variolite in this creek. Of course, you find a few little pieces like this. I enjoy finding a little bit of granite, so that's what we have here. This one is one that I will be cutting because I will take my tile saw. This looks interesting to me. This looks like, this exterior part looks like a husk, and I don't know that this is really a geode. It doesn't really have the right look for being a geode, but I'll cut it apart just to see what's in there. And I'd say 9 times out of 10 I'm disappointed when I cut open a rock, but I'm just looking for that 1 time out of 10 where, wow, this still has quite a bit of algae on it. So it's not much to look at, but this is interesting. There's a little bit of crystals in there. So I'll be cutting that apart to see what it is. Also, I have a hard time passing up quartz. Just a really nice piece of quartz. This is a rather pretty piece. I don't think it's anything more than quartz, but I like it. And all this stuff I put into a rock garden. So it will have a place, all of these will have a place in the rock garden. I was hoping that they were something a little more interesting, but quartz is common. Of course, all of these that I'm showing you are very common. This looks like a little bit of almost granite. There might be some jasper in here. I would say that red is probably jasper. I doubt if it's garnet or anything like that. It doesn't look like that. But it's still nice enough to go in the rock garden. So that's where it will go. I've been sanding a little bit on this one because I can't decide if those holes are all the same as far as a structure. You know, everything that God makes has patterns, and the more you go deeper and deeper, put it under the microscope, patterns, more patterns, more patterns. Everything that man makes, you put it under the microscope, it's pretty much ugly and random. So I haven't decided yet if this is some kind of amygdaloidal vesticular basalt. Maybe not. One of my favorite pieces that I found in that creek is this little brachiopod. Now I know that everything that I'm showing you here is very common. You know, it's not anything to write home about. Nothing's worthy of going into a museum. But even as common as these brachiopods are, I still like it a lot, and it's going in my collection for sure. All of these things, if I think it's good enough, like this particular sample, and it's small enough, then it goes in my collection. But if it's bigger, or like for example this piece right here, that's a nice sample of that. Okay, is that a banded chert? Is what I think it is. That's going to go outside with a lot of other banded stuff that I've collected from the creek. And the other things that are in that rock collection outside in my rock garden, that would be a few rocks that I bring back every year when we go visit Lake Superior, or mostly Lake Michigan. So I don't bring very much back, but I do bring a little bit back each year and put it in my rock garden. And then of course there are these other rocks that I picked up out in the creek. And you have these rocks that you pick up and you think, oh, well, there's a little bit of a light spot there. I wonder what that could be. Oh, this is kind of looks like it's been shaped. Almost looks like a piece of a tomahawk or an axe. I don't really think that's what it is, but you see a shape and you see something with a lot of holes, or something catches your eye and you think, oh, I'll pick that up and take it back home with me. And you get it home and you look at it a little bit more and you clean it up and you get it wet and get it dry, and you decide, okay, that's a leverite. Why did I bring that home? So then you can either take them back and put them back where they were before, or you can use them in the bottom of your flower pots, or you can just put them in the back of your rock garden, because it's kind of nice to have a backdrop of just ordinary stones that highlight the nicer ones that are in the front. And even though this is nice and smooth, and I picked it up right next to that other rock that I think looks like a game ball. Is it a tool? I don't think so. Is that ground down there? Maybe a little bit. I think it's just a natural rock. So I'll put the game ball, potentially game ball, on a website and ask for some opinions, and they'll probably say, oh, that's natural, which is okay. I'm not emotionally invested in any of these as far as I want them to be something. I don't want them to be a leverite, but it's okay if they are. And all of these just make an interesting hobby, and it's free to go walk the creek. And while you're out there, you can just enjoy some of God's creation. Thank you for watching and being a part of this. This is Tim Talks About Everything signing off. Until the next time I go to the creek, or to Lake Michigan, or Lake Superior, or out in the woods, or whatever I ended up doing and think that might be worthy of putting on my page. So thank you for checking in.